Yo, yo, checking in live from the bottom of the map. From the bottom of the map. Welcome to the show. It's your dog, it's your boy, Israel. Got my
Ike in the place to
partner,
be.
player partner, my ace from outer space, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And we're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
get into week three college
Weekly
football,
reactions.
week three reactions. Interesting week.
Hellified week. Hellified motherfucking week.
The interesting thing is that it wasn't any big games. It wasn't any like top ranked teams playing each other. Didn't seem like it
Except
was gonna be
for Tennessee top 10
Tennessee.
slide.
Well, yeah, and it shouldn't have been any teams that we were looking at being upset. But as we know, college football to go every week can be crazy. So we're gonna
Yeah.
kick it off talking about prime,
That's
prime
the biggest,
time.
biggest show right now in college football. So you kind of got to.
So I watched the game all the way to 2:30 in the morning, however late it was, and it was a great game.
Mm.
Great game. Um, and what they showed or what they proved to me that game. Oh, hold on a second. Something just dropped. Oh man, that was okay. That hit me out the blue. But what they proved is that the lights ain't too big for them. The lights gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger because next week they got Oregon, and then right after that they got USC. So
Like you said, everybody's really going to want the other game that I don't think people they're talking about it, but they're not going in depth is who's gonna be the first to beat Prime. I think all the
everybody
coaches
won
is
it.
lined up,
Everybody
mouth.
won.
Who gonna beat Prime first? I'm gonna beat him. You gonna beat him now? You ain't gonna beat him. I'm gonna beat him. And I think that's a whole nother ESPN show. Who gonna beat Prime? Who won it? Is it you? Like a Trey Songz? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? So
It,
I see that.
it almost feel like Team USA, the basketball team. Like every country is going to play their best against them. Like every team is going to play their best against Prime. Because Colorado State just got blown out by Washington State, 50-24. And it
It
come
looked like we could beat Alabama that game, huh?
Listen, they came out there. They came out there. Now what it shows is that they're like Colorado's defense is very suspect. They basically ran the same. They ran like a under crossing route, probably
Mm,
40 times and completed like almost every pass, and they
couldn't stop.
couldn't stop it. They couldn't stop it. Colorado doesn't have a power running game. So they had
Okay.
like a finesse running game. They have a running back. He's super fast, Edwards. He was a Notre Dame commit. And he transferred, but he's a little dude, so they can't really. They didn't really run the ball well. They can't really. Prime is going to need time to recruit more players
You
into
already
this
know
system.
trench warfare is really, you know what I'm saying? Like we talk about the SEC so much. The number one reason is the trench warfare. And, you know, like we talked about earlier, he's going to need linemen. And ultimately, you're coming in first year with over 50 new transfers. Is like, you know, the expectations for them and what the ceiling is even this year, they've already exceeded expectations. They only won one game. So now you're at 3 wins. So I
Yeah,
just,
yep.
you know, you're just seeing some realities. You know what I'm saying? You're just seeing realities.
And like Shador, the reason why they won that game was Shador. Shador put that. She said, "Hey, boys, hey, I got y'all. I
I
got
got
y'all.
you.
Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. We're gonna make sure." Because he was making every play. Like all the hype aside, all the name aside, if you just look at him for not just his talent, his arm talent, but how he performs on the field, he is definitely like if he's not in your top three Heisman candidate and a potential like top 10 pick for the NFL, you tripping, you crazy. Because he
Okay.
made every single and I will give it to Colorado State. Their defensive scheme was actually extremely good.
Listen, shout out to Colorado State. I don't care what they looked like the game before. They got up for prime. They had a lot of standout players on the line and they secondary. Like they was out there playing.
They was out there playing. They didn't let the no big shots down the field. They wasn't letting them get into any type of rhythm. But what Shador was doing, everything they gave him, he was taking it. Short
He
passes.
was,
He
and then
was
they shot
scrambling.
themselves in the foot too. Colorado State, right in the lead of the game, you start to see which team is more poised because they were the opposite of Shador. Meaningless penalties, you know, again and again,
Oh,
critical penalties.
I mean, crucial penalties left and right. And the game seemed like it could have been in favor of Colorado State. They kicked Colorado gets a stop. They kicked the ball down with a few minutes left to go from the 2 yard line. So Colorado's got to drive 98 yards. Shador completes basically every pass. He makes every play, drives
He
them
does.
all the way down the field. They score, but they still got to get the 2-point conversion. They score, they get the 2-point conversion.
I liked what they were doing though. They started to find their tight end. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? And they
oh,
just went
oh.
to the tight end.
Listen,
They just went,
listen.
Colorado State went to sleep, and those two penalties were very costly. That particular player, I don't want to butcher his name. I think it's like Akuman or something like that. Um,
So, their defensive lineman, he's actually really, really, really good. He
no,
actually
he was good. Yeah, it's
balled
that.
out.
Listen,
Muhammad, I can't remember his last name. But he balled out. He balled out. He
listen,
just made a
listen.
stupid play at the end.
Yes, he did, and it's like that. I think sometimes we get hot, but it's college football. These boys is between 18, you know what I'm saying, and 22. So yeah, at the beginning of the game, he's the hero. At the end, those two penalties, I think Colorado will is enough for them to still win. But we talking about what, 2 15 yards, roughing the
215
passer.
yard roughing the
You know what I'm
pass,
saying?
face mask.
Yes.
So
Like
yeah,
that
so
that just,
and this is when Colorado wasn't like they didn't have nothing. They weren't completing passes. They weren't like people weren't getting open. They looked like they was like dead in the water. You get a couple penalties, they get closer, you get a little momentum. Now they score. Go to overtime. I'm thinking like, oh hey, get Colorado State the ball first. Let them prove it. Nah, Shador right away. They score and they stop Colorado State. So it's just like man, I have to give it to Prime. I
you
do
do.
feel like they're gonna have some losses. I think they may have a few bad losses because
I feel like everybody, not just including us, because we want them to win, but it's almost like gambling and predictions. You're gonna lose, right? Like you play a game, you cannot win them all. Even with Georgia, like Georgia is mortal this year, but Prime just got started. They've already got 3 wins, and when they won one game last year, the program has been turned around. But yes, they do got to go into Oregon. You think Oregon didn't play nobody, right? Oregon played Hawaii. We ain't really covered that game. That might have been. I don't know what the spread is.
yeah, but they thrashed them. But
Yeah.
I don't believe in Bo Nix. When he was at Auburn, I didn't believe in him. And people love him. I don't know why. He ain't
You
showing
know
me
what
nothing.
it is? Well, first
Ain't
of
showing me
all,
nothing.
the
Show
running
me
joke is that we like Bo Nix done been in college 6 years, all right? Because I'm like, bro, how
nothing.
long have you been playing? I feel like you've been up there forever. But I do like Oregon's coach. I think that was Georgia's old defensive coordinator, Lanning. I think that's his name.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying
mm.
he's just solid. You know what I'm saying, and we just know he knows the game. They haven't really played anybody. No, ain't no, not really. They haven't
Ain't
played
playing nobody.
nobody.
Yeah, they ain't
Okay,
playing
because I know they played Portland State and ran up like 70 points. So this is going to be a good test for them. But obviously, they're going to want to get up. And I just think that let's play hypotheticals here because nobody else wants to do it. So Prime is going to have his first loss. It
nobody.
very well may be Oregon. Oregon has, you know what I'm saying, they're just a little bit bigger up front. And it's really just about the trenches. I ain't talking about nothing else. I just think that that's Colorado's weakness. I feel like once again, as long as they don't get completely blowed out, then it's not a bad loss. Are
Mm.
you even, you know what I'm saying? Are you mad that they lose to Oregon in year one? Like, you know what I'm saying? Once again, I just felt like, we romanticize the expectations level. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I think even Dion's haters are not really haters. They just want everybody to be like, look, it's his first year. He's gonna have losses. Let's get the losses out of the way so we can kind of like focus on, you know what I'm saying, what is the ceiling realistically this year? Is it 8 wins? Is it 9 wins? Can he make it to 10? Um,
I do think with Prime though, because he's so anti-establishment, he's so anti like old NCAA oligarchy. Like he had everybody with the shades on. He got
yeah,
Lil Wayne. He's
love that too, by
basically
the way.
he's basically taking the whole idea of amateur athletics and he's changing the landscape. Because the NIL already was one thing, but now you got your team coming out to Lil Wayne. You got
Yes,
the
that
Rock
was
is
dope.
on the side. How you got the Rock on the sideline? You got celebrities on the sideline. You got all these type of celebrities and these people
You
that
had a Lakers game, huh? This boy is bringing Showtime Lakers to
he but
Boulder.
but what he's showing, he was just like, amateur athletics is supposed to be, almost like this isn't supposed to be a place, a spectacle for money. This is, young men, and women when they're playing the sport and getting their college education, while everybody else is making millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars.
That's
And
crazy.
Prime is like, nah, man, everybody getting money. We're gonna get this money too.
Everybody eats, B.
Everybody
Everybody eats,
Everybody
B.
eats. Everybody eats. So now you're gonna start having more schools. You're probably gonna start like looking at, well, maybe we could do certain things. Maybe we could start having people come and change, the perception of amateur athletics. And with Prime, the haters, and this is the point I really want to get to. I think the haters are undercover lovers right now.
Yeah.
They love him right now because they want him to lose, but he's not losing. So it's just, I gotta like him. I got to. He flashy, but it's so dope when he come out there. He do everything, but then he seasons it with, this brought to you by the Lord. This
Yes,
brought to you
sir.
by God. So it's like,
Do
damn.
you believe we
I,
coming? I told you we coming,
he
right?
said he said we're not coming no more. We here.
We
We
here.
here. We here. So it's just like, damn, I can't go against them because now I'm gonna look like I don't believe. Because now he done proved it to me multiple times. So it's just like, from one time was in a fluke, two times, okay, now he's doing it consistently. And I think they undercover really want him to fail because they don't want to see it's a black man who's changing the landscape of college football. It ain't Dabo Sweeney. It ain't
Nick
uh,
Saban.
it ain't Nick Saban. It ain't, what's the coach at Oklahoma State that they love, that he always had these sound
Oh yeah,
bites.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
buddy.
what's
You talking about? Oh, he's at USC. You talking about you're
no,
talking about what's the name that was at Oklahoma that went to
no, no, no. I'm not talking about Lincoln Riley. I'm talking about Oklahoma State.
Oh, well, I know what you're talking about.
He has these sound bites. He rocked the
Yeah,
mullet.
yeah, the
Yeah,
mullet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
but it's not one of those coaches, that they love. It's Dion. And Prime is like new to college football in the coaching ranks. So like, you got somebody from the coaching ranks that's changing the landscape of how people perceive amateur athletics, and his team is winning at Colorado. They're not like a traditional powerhouse
Not
school.
at all.
So
That's
in
just that.
year
It's not even
one,
traditional powerhouse. They only won one game, so he's like, I'm gonna take the worst team.
in year one, now I got everybody. It's basically what he did with Jackson. How he got Jackson State on ESPN primetime every week. Now they're
Yeah.
showing HBCUs every week. Now he got Colorado. I don't remember the last time I've seen a Colorado game on TV, let
I
alone
think the
a
last
prime
decent
time game.
team they had is crazy. You want to know the last decent coach they had?
Rick Neuheisel.
I was gonna say, wasn't it Mel Tucker?
When was
Mel
he?
Tucker was at Colorado. Mel
Yeah,
Tucker,
yeah,
before he was there, he was at college. That's how he got the job at Michigan State.
yeah,
Not to say
yeah.
that's all connected, but listen, he was at Colorado. He had a great season. He had an okay season. Then he went to Michigan State, signed a massive contract.
Yeah,
So
I do think a lot of people aren't talking about how it's not just the flashiness of Prime. It's not just the shades and not just the jewelry. It's not just the heart of celebrities. It's how he's changing the idea of what college amateur athletics should look like. Because
mm,
now it's starting to look more like professional. You got
it
professional
does.
athletes on the sideline. You got people. You got your team coming out to performers. You got all these other things. Now I can't even imagine.
Sponsorships.
I can't even imagine what Boulder they talking about it. That game last night brought in like an additional like 13 million in revenue for the
Come on,
city, for the
man.
greater area of
Come on,
Boulder.
man. Prime gonna do numbers. Prime
So,
doing
so
numbers.
now you're flooding the city with money. This is revenue. You got sponsorship. You got TV sponsorships. Now this is going to change how when they come out. Now their locker room. Who knows what they're gonna come out to next? They may come out with cars or who knows what. But now it's just like you're gonna have some of your older traditional people who are gonna be like, this isn't how
Oh
college
yeah, yeah.
athletics should
Oh,
look.
people got to understand opinions and people are fickle. They love you, they hate you. The only difference is Prime has been like this since we were kids. We
Mhm.
know he's been flashy. There's only there in college football, if you think about it, Miami was traditionally the only flashy,
Mhm.
in your face, braggadocious school. That's what they were known for. They were hated, they were
Hated.
villainized for it.
Mhm.
Florida State was Bobby Bowden, it was Tallahassee, Florida. Prime
Mm-hmm.
bought that type of swag there. And since he won, not only did they tolerate it, but Prime never had any like huge scandals. So here's somebody who this is how they thrive. This is actually their style. What a lot of other people, they get bragging and they get humble. You can't humble him because he's done this as a player. He did this as a professional athlete. He's already coached. We know that he was coaching and was building and was a leader of young men even beforehand. We also know that he was on ESPN. So here's somebody who knows the game from all sides, and he knows exactly what he wants. And I think, as he said, he's not trying to go to the NFL. So he is actually here to be a Hall of Fame college, coach. But he's somebody, like you said, that's ushering in the new era, and he's doing it so effortlessly. Like he said, what do you mean? This is who I am. Y'all know me. And he has the respect. The other thing is that what they can't say is respect. He's not coming in and don't know nothing, as a hot shot. Nah, I'm one of the greatest defensive back, and I used to play both ways. So I can employ. And as he said, do you remember what he said when he first won? I always remember this, and it's going to stick out to me. And I want to use it as a soundbite in the show. They doubted me, they hated me, but the hood had me. And the hood. So you got every level. Can you think of anyone else besides the UM team who is beloved by so many different diverse demographics, from the hood to the top? Like, you got haters, but those haters are scattered from the elite.
Only team I can think of is the Reggie Bush, Lindell White, USC.
Yeah, they were. Yo, they were
the only team.
USC is the only other team that got that type of flash, and you love it because it's Southern California.
Yeah, but it came off more elitist, but it was still like
it was still flashy with the elite, like you know what I'm saying? Like, in LA, it's crazy. LA and Miami can do that. Miami was just more hated, and Miami was just, you know what I'm saying? It was the glitz. Those, if you take back a look at it, right? Obviously those scandals, we almost got the death penalty. But in today's NIL landscape, along with Prime, you need another school, right? Prime, you can blow it off to him. When the very next school steps up and does it, then I think it's going to create the same type of arm race that these conference alignments are doing. Now every school is going to have to do it. Right now you can say, well, that's just Prime. He's always been that. And you're right and you're wrong. Prime, though, is going to laugh all the way to the bank. And like you said, this right now, and shout out to
I just quit.
Shout out. Hi. Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
How's the DJ? Yeah, I'm liking the DJ.
And just on that part too, Prime and his kids, you know what I'm saying? His kids are able to grow up in this landscape. Some of them are going to go to the league. You know what I'm saying? We know Shador is definitely going to the league, but even, his other son, which played great, by the way. I didn't even talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Interception, you know what I'm saying? Hitting. We talking about textbooks, hit, causing fumbles. So at the next level, though, the kids, and here's on a more serious note, he brings it all back to the kids. He's making sure that these kids' families are changing, the way that they're able to deal with pressure, even his jokes. He was like, after this happened, your DM gonna go crazy. But he's also telling them more on a serious note. If you change because of this, then you're a person that can be bought and you can change for money. You can never get too high, you can never get too low. And I think in between, that's the part that if you just try to fake this and you're gonna get some, hot shot coach, they're gonna fumble this as well. And then the opposite is gonna be true. You're gonna have kids that are just, that are here just for economic opportunities. And that gets dicey because we know, we do bets, we do picks. You don't want to have those type of scandals because the NFL is already trying to, kind of root out, players betting, on their own teams. But I just think ultimately, like you said, he's changing the culture because I think most of us has hated these universities, these coaches have, Nick Saban out here getting $10 million a year. Dabo and these people getting $9 million a year. No one's saying anything, right? For the players and their families to come from these like broken, communities where some of our best players, let's be real, bro. We, we know these people in the hood that are raw, that their whole families, their whole communities are banking for them to get there, but they gotta wait. Make sure that, and they're an injury away from not getting no money. Could have went to the league. Nah. Why he can't get paid his first year? And I like Prime is like, no, you almost like, in a way, I'm gonna teach you integrity. I'm gonna teach you, character. I'm gonna teach you development. I'm gonna teach you grades. But I'm damn sure gonna teach you this money. And I love how he do it. And he says, as a matter of fact, like, no, you're gonna get paid. Why you can't have $100,000 his first year? Why he can't have 200,000 his first year? Okay, and he gonna get a degree. So, like you said, man, welcome to the new era, and shout out to them on that victory. Shout out to them on that victory.
Big shout out to Colorado on that victory. You know, I'm rolling with them. I'm on. You know, my heart's gonna always roll with
Man,
them.
most black people, let's just be honest, we're gonna roll because a lot of us don't believe in politics. With Prime, we get a teacher, we get a politician, we get a businessman, you get everything. Like, come on, man. Prime for president out here.
Yeah, and you know what do you say? Play my theme music.
That's what I'm saying. Got to, man. Man, listen, shoot, I feel like he gonna influence our show. You know what I'm saying? Our picks. We gonna make sure we have a little bit of, personality. Shout out to It Is What It Is podcast going out there. Cam all in too, you know what I'm saying? So,
hey, Gilly and Wallow out there, you know.
You got to. You can't fight this. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, bro, this is everything. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, this is almost like, I don't like that. I don't like that comparison. But not to give them too much shine, I do want to get to our reaction to other games. As a fact, this was a high, right? Let's go to a low. I want to go to Alabama next.
Let's go. So let me get my quick take on Alabama. I told you about Tyler Buchner.
You
right?
did.
And I was like, listen, I watched him at Notre Dame. He could never get the starting position. Drew Pine was a walk on. He couldn't take the end. Tyler Buchner was a 5-star recruit. He's supposed to be this dual threat quarterback, but like I said, they will only get him in on packages. And when I seen him being the starting quarterback, I didn't even know he transferred. I had no idea. I was like, he transferred to Alabama? I said, this is going to be interesting. And then when they sat their other quarterback in favor of Tyler Buchner, I said, it's not going to go well because he's not a passer. He can't throw the ball. And that was his issue at Notre Dame. He could not throw the ball. So when I seen his numbers and the stats and how they pulled that boy, he was throwing balls into the dirt, into the ground. I said, oh, man, I know Nick Saban probably losing his mind right now. Alabama, and I said South Florida. South Florida is not a good team. They're not a good team. Their quarterback play is bad. Their defense is decent. It's okay. It's serviceable. But they're not a good team. And Alabama struggled mightily against them. Mightily.
Have you seen Alabama play like that since Nick Saban got there? Even
I
year
think
one.
the Nick Saban era of dominance is over. I think it's done. I think the Clemson, Alabama era of dominance is over. I think it's over. I think it's done.
I think they can be competitive. I'm with you though. So Tyler Buchner looks like a poor man's Taysom Hill. Okay, he looked like you don't buy used.
That's a good comparison right there.
You don't buy used cars from Notre Dame. I don't know why people buy used cars from Notre Dame because I used to pick at Notre Dame's quarterbacks and I respect them all. On a serious note, but and I remember what you used to say. You'd be like, look, but they're 5-star, and I'm like, yo, Ian Book. So I start going through the line, and I'm like, and these dudes all have. Not to the degree of Tyler Buchner, though, because I'm thinking like, when you tell me 5-star, and that's why you can't even believe some of these high school rankings, right? Because it's like, okay, I understand that coaching, you have to develop talent, but these dudes literally are not pocket passers at all. Like they struggle with timing on like I watched him overthrow a receiver that was open and he still barely overthrew him. And I was like, you don't got to make but so many passes. The passes that you need to make, you need to make. This dude is worse than Milroe. Milroe actually was better, and I think Milroe has a higher ceiling. I think I know Alabama was thinking. I know what the thought process was. Throw him out here, an easy opponent, cupcake. Let's see what he can do. Get his wheels turning. Let's really see what we have. I thought they were really going to split the reps. I didn't know that that's what they were going to do, but I do appreciate them sticking with him for that commitment. And I think had they got down, maybe they would have stuck somebody else out there. But man, you can't move the ball against USF. Yo, Alabama may very well have very well. I think everybody, I don't think it's nobody who's not looking like, well, they're not covering your spread, okay? It's crazy, but it's like you might have to take the points against Alabama betting, but Alabama might have 3-4 losses this year.
Yeah.
And if they do, what do you do as a fan base when the coach that you know what I'm saying? Do you just shut your mouth and put your head down? Because he got statues, all right? He might go down as the greatest of and they're not going to just say eras at this point, right? This man literally has 4 or 5 championships, you know what I'm saying, since he's been there. They got a statue of him and they got a statue of Bear Bryant.
Nick Saban is I mean, beyond accolades, I would give him the title of the GOAT of college
Okay.
football head coaches. Like, I mean, he has not only national championships, he has like countless number of NFL players,
He does.
Heisman Trophy winners. So I mean, like his, since he's been at Alabama, I think his record. That Kirby Smart, depending on what he do, he might be coming for, but he doesn't have enough. He had to
Yeah,
put in
I
more
think that
time.
record is hard. You're talking about 4 or 5 almost, you know what I'm saying? Like that run. And then all the championship games that he's played for in
Yeah.
between, like
Mhm.
that's a hellified run. Yeah. Kobe, for Kirby to even get in the conversation, they need to three-peat this year on some Jordan, on some Bulls. They three-peat this year and then stay competitive, then okay, we
Yeah.
can at least put them, in there. But the sad part is we're not, it's like we're not talking crazy because this is the standard Alabama set. Alabama loses a game and you're looking crazy, but now you can't move the ball. You
Can't
know what
move
I'm
the
saying? I
ball.
think I think at this point there's going to be a shaft. You know what I'm saying? We know Nick Saban's not going nowhere. Honestly, he's untouchable. But there's going to be a staff shakeup at the end of this season. I definitely think Bill O'Brien is gone. I think he should have been gone. Honestly, I think I've listened to a lot of shows and a lot of different podcasts, and they're really talking about the staff. They're saying that the staff is not so much Nick Saban, but that staff before you got coaches now who are head coaches who are on the quality control staff in years past. So
Yeah.
they're really talking about the position coaches. Like it's been a who's who of college football. And it's like, now when you're looking at that staff is not impressive. As I said, I never liked Bill O'Brien when Bryce Young was there. I felt like when they had Bryce Young and they had the receivers, I don't think the offensive play calling was the drop off. And I think that Lane Kiffin made it elite and changed everything. I think Steve was able to keep it going. I think Bill O'Brien is your drop off. I think that their defense, even their DBs, have been suspect for years now. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And it's not about talent, it's just about the development. But I think the offense now has taken a step back, clearly, right? The offense, and
Really.
now you don't even have the personnel. So now you know what I'm saying? You're recruiting your scouting ports, who you're going after, because everybody's getting the same transfer portal. And there's no way that you got people at Rice, I think JT Daniels, and different quarterbacks that we know that could thrive, but they're at other schools, they're at smaller schools. What was it about y'all not seeing the talent in the same transfer portal, right? Because that's just evened it up. I think that they whipped on personnel, and I think that they whipped on coaching staff, and I think it's going to be a very long season. But I also think that I think much like Prime, it's too much. Like, let's be cool. Alabama finally, in the last 10 years since he got there, they're
Uh,
going to have a legitimate off, campaign.
and they missed it last year because they could have legit had like 5 losses last year.
They
Legit.
could have.
So
They could have.
I think that the demise was on its way, and it's finally like
It's just here.
yeah, it's just here now. And one thing I would say about Saban, I don't think he'll be down for too long, but I do think the transfer portal and the NIL is going to halt like dominant schools. I think there'll be schools that'll be towards the top of the rankings every year, but I don't think there'll be any schools that's going to reign like how Alabama did. I think that's going to be very difficult because players, like you said, they're not going to stay for 2 and 3 years. They're going to come for 1 year, then they may transfer. They transfer in, transfer out,
Yeah.
having to build like cohesiveness and establish.
No,
You
it's definitely going to be harder. But I think, honestly, I'm going to go with the position that, you know what? This is a good wake up call for Alabama. They're going to have a down year. Nick Saban's going to be that much more. They're going to get a quarterback because if you look at all their other positions, Alabama still had the top 5 ranked
know,
team. So it's not the players. We're going to get the personnel. But if you do not have a quarterback, right? Georgia looked mortal because of the quarterback. All of the elite quarterbacks, people who, what I'm saying, are returning quarterbacks, they have a leg up. If you don't have a quarterback, I mean, look at USC. USC doesn't have a defense, right? But they have a quarterback. So I just think in today's college football, even Florida, right? Quarterback, right? You know what I'm saying? Tennessee, right? Quarterback. If you do not have a quarterback that can at least be somewhat consistent on, what I'm saying, your third down conversions, your deep passes, right? He don't have to necessarily be the best pocket passer, but if he's not at least decent, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle on offense. And I just think that they violated that rule. And I think the staff upgrades. I don't know. They'll never be dominant, again as that, but I also think that they will still be at the top of college boards, and I think they'll compete for a championship again. I just think that college football, much like the opposite of Dion, they romanticize things. You got people who've hated Alabama for years. You know what I'm saying? And if anything, you got people who hated the distribution of wealth. I probably wasn't a fan of that, but I never hated the man, and I don't think it's as bad as people. I think it's bad now, but I also think that, like I said, when have you known Nick Saban to stay down? So I think it's a little overblown. I think it is what it is this season, but I feel like next year they get a quarterback, and you know what I'm saying, they're right back in business.
Yep. Well, let's jump over to, fellow SEC teams, Georgia, South Carolina. I think, like you said earlier, Georgia is mortal. I watched the
Yeah,
game.
they're
Um,
mortal.
I think they needed a wake up call because South Carolina was actually dominating that game, not just by
Mhm.
score, but they just looked like the better team in the first half. And I think Georgia needed a wake up call because they came out and right away they looked like a more dominant team. But
Mm,
the first half showed me like, oh, okay, all right. Their defense, because they lost a lot of players. That's one thing I can say. They lost a
they
lot of
did.
players. So the defense doesn't look as dominant. Their secondary looks, like you can get them. Like I've seen a couple blown coverages, and a lot of missed tackles. But that was in the first half, and it looked like, one thing I say about Kirby Smart, I, that's one thing. It's just like, all right, the team doesn't look good, and when they came out first drive, right away they looked like a completely different team. They looked like number one team as soon as they came out. But then it kind of waned again. So towards the fourth quarter, like South Carolina started making plays. I think South Carolina, they could be a good team. I like Shane Beamer. I think they have to keep some of that Carolina talent around and trickle into Georgia, maybe some other places. But like you said, the game won in the trenches. And once the game got into, it was 3 points and the game was getting, it was really tight and it could have, South Carolina could have put a little bit more pressure on them. They was getting key first downs. Georgia was getting key first downs running the ball. Spencer Rattler on the other side, he's running for his life every play, every play. But also, he brought some of that on himself. One thing I noticed about, I guess you can start to see the difference between a good college quarterback and elite quarterbacks and quarterbacks that can possibly go to the league is their pocket presence. So because he was being rushed the whole game, he didn't step up in the pocket at all. And what he started doing
Mhm.
is drifting backwards and throwing the ball off his back foot. He's missing
Mhm.
receivers,
Miss
or
that.
he's giving the defensive line opportunity to get closer to him because he's drifting backwards instead of stepping up in the pocket and still like going through his reads. But he is getting hit a lot, so I understand. Like I got to get out of here. I got to get the ball out.
God.
He's got to start scrambling. But Georgia. I did think it was going to be a tough game. I do see Georgia having a loss or
Mm.
two. I do think there's going to be some teams that are more poised and probably have more talent spread all the way around. South Carolina did lose. I think his name is Juice Wells.
Oh,
Um,
I remember him.
Juice is a dope, really good receiver. I think they lost him in the like the second quarter. I think they lost him. But teams that got more talent offensive wise, a little bit more talent defensive wise, I think Georgia's beatable. Georgia's definitely
Yeah,
beatable.
we'll come back in some later videos, like, take a look at their schedule and take a look and see what what I'm saying, for a play-by-play analysis. Much like you said, though, when Georgia didn't cover the spread and I realized that the offense wasn't prolific as last year, I knew that they were mortal. And then, obviously the next question is why. And it's just because, you know what, we're breaking in a new quarterback. You know what I'm saying? We're so used to Stetson Bennett being this, pretty much, from a walk-on to, an elite college quarterback,
Mhm,
very smart with the football. But credit Kirby Smart to halftime adjustments. Like, he
mhm.
was a defensive coordinator. That defense came back out there and locked a
Yep.
lot more. And I think, a lot of times when we're looking at coaching, we're big fans, but this is what I'm gonna be looking for from Mario Cristobal, because he didn't do it at Oregon. Okay.
Yeah.
Not a lot of halftime adjustments. And so I love the defense halftime adjustments. And I think that's the mark of of a winner and an elite football team. Like, you know what? We're close. We're not going to get rattled. Kirby's always looking smart. So he probably, been around Nick Saban. But yeah, they clamped down and they made life hard for that South Carolina O-line. The O-line has been suspect now, and he was running for his life against North Carolina. So when you talked about him, kind of not stepping up in the pocket, when you look at him, he looks really, really small.
He
How
does.
much pounding and the defensive ends, the linemen, they swooping down on him like grizzly bears. I'm even putting myself in his position. How many hits I'm finna be taking? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a dog, and so I'm gonna continue to play. He got the heart of a lion, but they put that helmet in your chest, you know what I'm saying, to get it off. You feel that. You gonna feel today he feels that. So I just feel like if Beamer and them can get a line before his eligibility runs out, because I'm not sure, I know he at least got one more year. Yeah, but if they get an offense, they can be competitive. If they get a line, they got a receivers, they just don't have an O-line at all. I felt like their defense played great, but it's like how, the defense is going to be tired. Drives are stalling out now. You know what I'm saying? I felt like, their defense played a lot better in the first half because they weren't on the field as much. The offense was not going 3 and out. They were driving down the field. And I just could tell once they made those halftime adjustments, the momentum switched. And it was like, okay, you know what? Now your defense is gassed. They're tired. You know what I'm saying? I felt like the last 2 drives by South Carolina, they just put everything they had because they still knew, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, that's a good team. They believe in their coach, they believe in the message, but it's just not enough there yet for that line. They're not going to win trench warfare. But ultimately, I think that's a good boost by them. I think, going the rest of the season, it's like we know that we have the talent to compete at least with the elites. So let's have the best possible season. And I think it's a win for recruiting. I think Georgia, even though they're mortal, they showed us like, look, you want the belt or you gonna take the belt. Honestly, the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We're not really gonna cover the Michigan game, but Michigan is looking sneakily solid right now. And I don't know if the other shows are really looking like, look, Michigan has a favorable schedule, and I'm gonna tell you right now. I bet against Ohio State. I love. I ain't got nothing. I ain't no hate on Ohio State, but it's just business. But I've been popping them the last 2 years. Yo, Michigan looks like right now out of that Final Four, they look the most solid team on both sides of the ball. Trench warfare is there. They're going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem for Georgia. This may be the year where Michigan cracks the ceiling because I'm just like, well, who can beat them? They're returning most of starters on both sides of the ball. They got O-line, they got D-line. I think they got the same quarterback from last year, right?
Yeah.
Same coordinators, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if they covered the spread, but I just know that this whole time I'm like, well, who's gonna beat Michigan?
Yeah.
So we'll definitely see.
Let's jump into this and the one you called, and I definitely want you to talk about your boy over in this Florida-Tennessee game, because that game, you called it. You called it from the start.
I did.
You didn't believe in Tennessee. You called it fool's gold. You did say Billy Napier, this would be a game for him to kind of.
He needed this game. Florida needed the game more. Let me tell you something about Florida. You thought Miami fans is fickle? Jim McElwain won the SEC East twice, and then they fired him because he ain't won the big one. You know what I'm saying? And I just was like, I may not think he's the best, but he's a good coach. Their last coach, remember their last coach's name? I always forget it. I actually love him.
Not much, champ.
I forget his name. A great offensive mind, but he's he's an asshole. But what great coaches are not assholes? But he's not afraid of kind of like he's Lane Kiffin. He's just not funny and he's just not likable. And he don't like recruiting, but great offensive mind. I loved him, and they were actually a much better team with him. But he got embarrassed when they thought he had a great season. Then he had a not great season. Then they fired him, and they just didn't like him. So Florida is right under Texas with the expectations. So I feel like this is a game they had to have. But I also think they're another team that has issues with quarterback play. And honestly, it's almost a joke because, the dude, and, obviously we don't know these players. We're not really trying to, hate on them. I think I think like a lot of, I just think it's tough, saying quarterback, but he wasn't that good at Wisconsin. So I don't know, once again, it's like, do you not can you not get the talent in the transfer portal? Because there's some diamonds out there in the transfer portal, and I don't understand why they got him. That was the best between the recruits, but I just felt like Tennessee never plays good on the road. And once I watched Tennessee against Austin Peay, I knew that it was not going to go well because they didn't get any separation from them. They had a lot of stalled out drives, and I was like, you know what? Their quarterback, LSU quarterback, answered some questions. I think that he's under that type of quarterback. Like, you know what? He's not. He's a little bit less accurate. And that offense, I love their coach, right? I think Josh Hooper is a great offensive mind. I just don't think they have the personnel to do the things that they want to do. I think they have a better defense than what they had last year. And I think their running game is stronger. But I just felt like I just knew Florida was going to put everything together because I was like, Florida, they evenly match up. They both don't have quarterbacks, but Florida has a solid running game, okay? ETN did what he needed to do. Florida also has solid D-line and has a solid O-line. They're built for trench warfare. They just don't – and they got receivers. They just don't got a quarterback to throw it to them. But I just felt like they wanted it more. And I felt like, yeah, Billy Napier, the seat gets a little hot in Florida. In the swamp, you get embarrassed? Nah, he had to have that one.
So their quarterback, Graham Merritt, I think is his name,
Yes,
transfer from Wisconsin, had a horrible game, terrible game. I think
he had hand injuries too. To be fair, but I don't know if you've seen the hand.
I think they had like 58 yards of passing offense in the second half. Terrible game, but they made a couple plays at the end. ETN, I forgot the other running back name, made a couple plays to pull the game out. I think this was more of a loss for Tennessee than a win for Georgia. Win for Florida. Joe Milton, I know you haven't been high on him. I actually had liked him. And this is why I be trying to tell you, arm talent don't mean nothing. They talking about that boy can throw 100 yards. He got a cannon. He got a rocket. He inaccurate. He doesn't get rid of the ball quickly. He doesn't go through read progressions. He stares all his receivers down. And if it ain't wide open, that thing gonna be incomplete. That thing gonna be incomplete.
He's a 6-year senior too.
And his, they say he has, some, and it's true about some quarterbacks. They have like deep ball accuracy. Like they may not be good in intermediate passing, but they can throw a good deep ball. And that was his thing. Like,
I remember Stephen Morris for UM, same thing. Accurate on the deep passes, inaccurate in short passes. So I can see that. I can see that.
But on the deep passes, watched against Florida, inaccurate, throwing interceptions, throwing into double coverage. He's a film quarterback. He isn't an in the game quarterback. And what I mean by that is when you watch him doing practice or doing 7-on-7 drills or when there's nobody around him and he just gets the ball and he stands there flat footed and he throws it, it's just like, okay, yeah, he got it. He got strong arm. He looks the part. But then when you put, defensive lineman rushing at him, he holds the ball. He doesn't move around in the pocket. To be, kind of quote unquote an athletic quarterback, he doesn't really get out of getting sacked, moving around, shifting his feet in the pocket. I watched him like he takes the snap and he stands there flat footed, waiting to throw the ball. And I was like, damn, Florida, they finna start eating this up. And that's basically what they did. And then when he's doing that, when you're running the read option works because you're getting movement and then you're reading the line. When you're just standing there and everybody can see your feet ain't moving and you're handing the ball off, that's when they can just start teeing off on a running back because they know you're not finna pull it. Your feet aren't even ready to start moving. And I was just like, dang, man, I thought he was, because when Hendon Hooker went down last year, at the end of the year, they was like, well, they should be fine because they got another quarterback that can step in right away. And he had some decent games until they ended up losing to South Carolina. And then they got blown out by somebody else. But I was kind of drinking the juice a little bit. And I'm not a Tennessee fan, but I was like Josh Heupel. I like him as a, and he's a quarterback. He won a Heisman. So I'm like, he should be somebody who could be able to coach up, at least mechanics. But I'm just like, I'm looking at Joe Milton. I was like, boy, you're not looking like, and that game was very much winnable for them. And I was like,
it was winnable. And when you look at other quarterbacks, the quarterback for Boston College, right? Aside from his inaccuracies, right? Let's just say the lights were too big. It's hard. It's not the easiest playing in the swamp. Tennessee, even when they're good, never plays well in the swamp, right? It's going to be a slugfest. They haven't won. let's take away the inaccuracy issues. At what point, when you watched LSU quarterback, there were times, he had two rushing touchdowns and two throwing touchdowns. But with athletic quarterbacks, when the pocket, when the DBs are consistent in covering and there's nothing open, and you're already, this is our 8th drive, we need to put points. At what point do you start to say, you know what? It's not that I'm going to abandon the game plan, but let's adjust and let me start running more. Let me keep the defense honest, because once the defense has to think about containing a quarterback, now that's almost like default respecting the run. Now I'm looking at a running back and a mobile quarterback. Somebody got to stay home, right? Now that one player stay home to not force you, now it opens up some receivers, because even if you got accuracy issues, now there's going to have time for certain receivers to get open because there's one less person in coverage. And I just felt like they didn't do that. I'm not sure whether they either didn't game plan that, or maybe Heupel is not really playing to the strengths of his quarterback. Maybe you think your quarterback is somebody that he's not. And
I think it's more of that. I think it's more you think he's somebody that he's not. Also, they did lose some receivers, so that explosive offense from last year, with those receivers,
yeah, I remember those
I
too.
seen their receivers getting locked up. I seen their receivers not getting separation. I seen their
Okay.
receivers dropping passes. I was like, this is not the same receiving core from last year. And Hendon Hooker was, until he got hurt, he was front runner for the Heisman.
Yeah. I think, like you said, man, they don't have the personnel that they had last year. I think Heupel is good, but it's one of the, I think a lot of times, us included, we look at someone, they're so good, so we do drink the juice, not realizing that, there's a lot of moving parts every year. Do you have the same personnel? Once you have a different quarterback, I think you always have to start expectations at zero. And, I was expecting the team last year. They were so good last year. They surprised everybody, and that's the problem, right? You get surprised and you don't want to get surprised. You want to be able to get in front of that thing. And so now we're like, okay. But I knew there was going to be problems when they didn't get that separation from. Listen, they had trouble against Austin Peay. So we're talking about a situation where, look, it's going to be a rebuilding year for them. But I don't know if you remember, they got a stud quarterback, 5-star, I believe. His name is Nico. I don't remember the less. He's from California. My last question before we leave this is, do you pull in Alabama and do you start playing him? Or do you want to stay with your 6-year senior?
You
Or do
stay.
you not start letting that dude get reps in?
I think you stay with your guy. You don't want to shake his confidence. So playing like you say, playing in the swamp is difficult. You
No.
playing under 100,000. This is nighttime. It's a hard place to play for anybody. So you don't want to pull him. This isn't an Alabama situation where it's just like, all right, everybody out here look clueless. Like, he's been in the office, he knows the offense, he knows how to run the offense. So
Okay.
I think what you just do is maybe make the playbook simpler. Give
Mm,
them some. It's almost like what Miami did with TVD. Like, sometimes you just got to give him simple plays, simple reads to get him into a rhythm. Once he gets into a rhythm, then his talent should take over.
okay.
That's the thing I like to see with and we could transition into going into next week. Miami plays Temple, which should be a easy game, a fairly easy game, but quarterback play is something that we still want to continue to see. We want to continue to see O line play. We want to see D line play, but more than anything else is that we still want to see good coaching. And we talk about hypo and even Billy Napier, Saban, Prime. What makes a lot of this is coaching. Makes a
It
lot of this
is.
is
It
coaching.
is.
Coaching. So
Coaching and whoever, with Heupel, because we feel like Heupel being an offensive coordinator, I'm not sure who their coordinator is, but I feel like it's a situation like Jimbo, like, well, no matter who the coordinator is, Heupel is calling the plays.
yeah,
And
hypo calls players.
and that's what I thought. So, it is coaching, but I think, I think what separates all of them too is that Kirby and adjustments, right? Something doesn't work. How am I going to adjust? How am I going to in-game adjust? How am I going to adjust week to week, right? Especially now as you know your personnel. Because once again, this is a dominant theme. These teams are young, they're new. You don't even know what you have until you really play. You're not getting the type of reps to where you know the DNA of your team. And then until your team is tested. So Tennessee has a loss. How are they going to bounce back? You know what I'm saying? Same thing, we briefly move into Florida State. Same thing. Dominant team that has a struggle win. If there was a theme this, you know what I'm saying, this Saturday in college football, it was a struggle.
It was
A
a
lot of
struggle.
things were a
Mhm.
struggle. Even if you won, it was a struggle. There were a
You
couple
need
of
some of
blowouts.
those games though. You need some of those games where like you did it was ugly, the other team got up for you, they made it ugly, the coach's game plan for you really well, and you found a way to win. And sometimes you just gotta get out of there. Like we found
That's
a way to
hey,
win, we got out of here
or
with
you
a
lost.
W.
So how do you bounce back from that loss? Like we didn't, you know, what did we do that we shouldn't have? And the Florida State game was good, but you know, the opposite of what Tennessee's quarterback was Boston's quarterback. He was accurate on the deep shots when he had time to throw. Florida State adjusted though and started to get to him a little bit more, but they made it tough, and that was almost a winnable game for them. You know what I'm saying? Their quarterback was explosive last year, breaking 40, you know what I'm saying? Running for 40 yards, scrambling for 17 yards, timely getting the third downs when they need them. So then when he's making these deep passes, because he's unpredictable, is he going to do a short pass for a large gain? Is he going to contain? And he scramble? His ability to extend plays was monstrous for them, and it gave Florida State all type of problems. And you know what, to be fair about it, I think Boston College got up, and then Florida State adjusted before halftime, settled down, kind of locked in their quarterback a little bit more, and then it was Jordan Travis turn. Did I say his name right?
Yeah, Jordan Travis. Huh?
Jordan Travis. I definitely still like Florida State's offense. They took their foot off the gas. That's why the score was a little bit closer. But the deceptiveness of how he gives away the ball, whether he's going to throw, is going to create problems. Like I see why people are high on Florida State based on the way their offense is actually pretty fun to watch. The unpredictability of when he's going to throw, him extending, his feet, you know what I'm saying, or his extending plays rather with his feet, made things unpredictable. But Boston College has been exciting to watch. I just don't think that they have enough. Once again, they don't have enough in the trenches for them to really, you know what I'm saying, have a defense that matches their offense. But it was an exciting game. That was a good game.
Yeah, and Boston College off of a penalty, they had a chance to attempt to win the game, but they got a penalty when they got a third down stop with a minute and change left, and Florida State ended up running the ball out. Last game I wanted to get to real quick is a team that nobody is still talking about, but it's going to be their season is going to be on the line next week. Is Notre Dame.
Okay.
Uh, Notre Dame plays at home against Ohio State next week, but they
Ooh.
had another solid win against Central Michigan.
Okay.
And Notre Dame is looking more of so a lot of teams in college football are like ultra explosive. They're just going to score, 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 score. They're going to jump out, score 21 points in the first quarter, 21 points in the second quarter. You're going to look up, it's going to be 45-0 at halftime. Notre
Okay.
Dame is a little bit more methodical. Their games are close in the first half. It's 17-10, 17-13, something like that. And then trench warfare, the offensive line takeover. They start running the ball more. The drives turn from 6 plays to 16 plays. And that's what happened against Central Michigan. They have Sam Hartman, that's the person who's going to be getting all the accolades and all the hype and all the publicity right now. But their running back, Audrey Estime, leads NCAA in rushing right now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Audrey
Okay.
Estime. Audrey Estime. Remember that name. 230, 6'2", and he's super fast, got moves. Look at the highlights of the game. He hurdled over like 4 people and keep running. So they're a legit team, but, against Ohio State is going to be the real test. So we'll see what they do.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I'm not, a Notre Dame fan by any stretch. But I felt like my criticism was them is that they never got a quarterback, and I would hear why, and I still would be like, it's not. Y'all got a quarterback. I'm drinking the juice. I don't think Ohio State's that good. I don't. I'm gonna say it again. I don't think Ohio State's that good this year. I think that they finally settled into their last quarterback. I think Notre Dame beat them by 2 touchdowns. And I'm just saying that early. I'm gonna really get into that again in a later video. But yeah, if I'm already talking about games of the week, yeah, Notre Dame, they're gonna crown you. And really, once you beat them, the rest of the Notre Dame fans gonna come out the woodwork. They gonna act like that's America's, the Fighting Irish. I'm telling you. So yeah, I'm calling it. Y'all win that game, and they're on you. They're drinking the juice.
Yeah. So week
Hold
3.
on though. Before we leave, there's a game that me and you we ain't even talked about off air, and this one's gonna surprise you. But you've got to pay attention because their quarterback is putting up Heisman numbers. Washington is quietly
Don't believe
quiet.
it. Don't believe it.
I'm not a Washington fan. I had a homeboy looking for a bet. He says, he want to take and I bet wrong, you know what I'm saying? But I don't like to bet last minute without research. So Washington played Mel's
Penix.
Tucker, the Mel
Their
Tucker list.
quarterback is dope.
No, Buddy is out here. I'm starting to look at the yards. I think every game is over 400, every 400.
So is Shador.
Yeah, and I love Shador.
Against better talent, against better
I'll
teams.
say that. But I think he's in there. I think you have to put him in the conversation.
He's definitely in the Heisman conversation.
He's in the Heisman conversation.
But let me say this about Washington. They're just like how it happens every year. They don't play anybody. They're gonna have to. You'll see because they have to play Oregon and USC. So we're gonna see what they're gonna be. But they say they even make it through that gauntlet. As soon as they come play any team from the SEC, they get blowed out the frame.
This is true. And the Pac-12 actually, in the year of their demise, the last year of their existence, they have the most teams, in the top 25. So it's crazy. We definitely need to do a video on alignment, but I think it would be more of a dive into like what decision making led up to it, because I think that there's a lot of moving parts. We know the obvious, right? But people don't know how the Pac-12 got there. And you start to look at business and you start to look at administration. You realize whoever was the president, they fumbled that, because now if you were to think about that league, right, if they would have done everything, now your league is finally shining, right? And you guys are going to be good because you got Prime out there, you got people out there. So for the next 4 or 5 years, the Pac-12 would really, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know what? That's what happens when you fumble them. And I think that's why I love Prime even more, because a lot of what we see behind the curtains, we think it's so perfect in its glamour. And these people are idiots. Like, they're fumbling whole billion-dollar leagues. And for what? So if we in the ACC can be playing games at 10:30 at night, you know what I'm saying? Like, with horrible travel. Like, and I'm not knocking it. I like Stanford. But when you talk about logistics, it's like, look, Miami got to play Stanford one year. How that finna look? Now we know 18 to 22-year-olds like being up all night anyway. But for the viewers, it's like, now the game start at 12:30. What?
or even just like, traveling all the way across the country
to
play a game. Yeah, it's gonna be
It's gonna be crazy, but that's what it is when you fumble it. I think that's all the games. I'm trying to think that we missed. We didn't really cover the Georgia Tech reaction with Lane Kiffin. Lane gonna be Lane. You know what I'm saying? I do think that those last touchdowns were for the betters. They didn't look bad, but they look up and down. Dart has been there, though. One thing I say about their quarterback is the quarterback has been there. That's a known commodity, and we'll see what they do next week. I'm happy with LSU. I'm happy because I like LSU. For some reason, I always like LSU. I think Brian Kelly realized, and I think now, I don't think think about week 1 reaction. Oh, it's over for them. Now that we see through how Alabama is, we start to look at the rest of that league. Nah, LSU right in the thick of things. LSU Alabama. LSU and Texas A&M for that matter. Texas A&M, that Miami loss ain't that bad no more.
No,
they can score. Okay?
And it's an out-of-conference loss.
I'm going to go ahead and call it. I think Jimbo does enough to save his job in the SEC this year. Okay, Jimbo does enough to save his job. Nah, because Jimbo looking like, please, who you gonna get? And I think everyone else is like, hold on, Saban's down. That just helped everybody else in the SEC right now. Yeah. He just gave a gimme. So, but I ain't gonna try to cover it all. You know what I'm saying? We'll definitely, when we get into our picks or maybe some of the upcoming games, let's go ahead and expound on some of these points, take these points a little bit further. But all in all, man, it was a pretty good weekend, pretty exciting. We didn't really cover the Missouri-Kansas State. We'll say that for another video as well. I still think that all those teams, though, have a chance. And I just think, once again, if anything, a lot of teams are not unbeaten anymore. And so, we definitely want to, get into some unbeatens in some later videos. But all in all, man, it was exciting. It was exciting. What's your last reactions? Exciting?
I think it's just like, all right, so now we're starting to see like the picture starting to form. So I think next week is going to really, this is when the hammer is going to drop. It's going to fall for a lot of people. So this is what we're really going to see. It's like, okay, a couple teams got a couple scares. certain teams you're starting to, who rounded into shape, because now you're starting to get into, a lot more conference play. And we're gonna see like what's the real deal, who's
I'm
ready.
interested to see those rankings too, man. From losses to close wins, boy, it's gonna
Close
be
wins, yeah.
and it's a top 11 or a top 10, depending on what chart you're looking at, ranking system. So it's gonna be a little shake up now.
Yeah, but like I said, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna drop more videos. Like Prime said, we ain't coming, we here.
We
So
here.
expect us to see us constantly putting out picks. Giving our game reactions. Definitely taking deep dives in the especially to the U, into Miami
Oh, yeah,
football
you
and
all
other
day. Come on,
topics.
man. I ain't even showing the shirt, baby, real quick. You
um,
feel me? The camera
you know,
problems. But yeah.
Also, we're gonna be showing love to the HBCUs, because
Definitely
we all about
family.
HBCU football,
Got to,
HBCU
baby. All of
athletics.
them. You know what I'm saying? We pretty much FAMU alumnus over
Yeah,
here. So yeah, your Hampton games, your Bethune Cookman. Well, shout out to Bethune. We ain't even talk about. Listen, Bethune didn't look bad against UM. I felt like they held them boys to under 70. So
sure.
Bethune did a good job, man. Shout out to that program.
Fam, you got
Um,
to win this weekend. So FAMU is looking like they on pace to head to the what's it called, the Heritage Bowl.
yeah.
Or unless they get a bid to the FFCS playoffs, like they did last
We
year.
definitely got to do like just a straight up, just analysis of all the HBUC teams and just make that, its own series. They got to get their love. You know what though? I just thought about it. I am a little salty with Bethune. I hope they don't have a good season because you ain't want to get Ed Reed and you ain't want to get that because y'all could have had a show too. You could have had the big show. All you had to do was tell your alumni and tell them people. So you don't want you don't want it. You don't want it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hating a little bit. I'm hating. So just because you ain't want to have no daddy, you don't want to give up that control. You're a private school now. You out here tripping. That's why you always gonna be the little brother in Florida. All right, keep on. Lomo just got a team. You're gonna be behind them. All right, let's go.
But yeah, so we, keep it locked with us. Keep checking in. Subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. Tell your
Tell a
mama. Tell
friend
your
to tell a
auntie.
friend that it's them again.
Yeah. Tell your auntie. Tell your bow-legged uncle. Tell everybody. You know
Hey
what I'm
man,
saying?
somebody, man, come on, man. It's all good though. We listen. We gonna get there. We just gonna have to do like Prime, bro. We gonna have to start doing our own little commercials.
Yeah. Hey, but listen, the bandwagon got room. So
Hey, I got all type of seats. We doing giveaways right now. So don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't be late. Don't miss the, you know what I'm saying? Don't be talking about I remember when them boys,
yeah,
I had the safari background, you know what I'm saying? Rainbow Six Mountain. Nah, you need to come now, okay?
I'm not, while we here, but we gonna be back. And we always, represent for the bottom of the map. That's what we
Got to
do.
for the bottom of the map.
All right, shit, we gone.
We gone.